Women of Reddit, what are things men do that scares you but they don't realize? Messages you on a dating app commenting on having found your profile and that they are in the same location as you. They can see you but you can't see them. I had a guy do this on a fully packed train I was on to go to work. I'm not an anxious person but it felt really uncomfortable. Following you to your car to get your number. Don't ever do that. Getting really intense about our friendship really early on. A lot of guys turn women into this kind of fantasy thing that's supposed to make them whole, help them change or whatever. Sir, I am the main character in my own life. Not just a supporting one in yours. When you put that pressure on me right away, abs without reciprocation. I know that I don't actually matter. Standing in doorways blocking exits. Flirting is fun so long as you don't flirt by asking me where I live. And if I live alone. And, as an expat, if I know people in the area. If you want to chat. Flirt. Get to know me. Don't start with the questions that set off alarm bells in my head. What security system do you employ? I've been approached several times in public by random men who say they want to be friends with me. One leaned in really close to have a conversation and asked me where I was from and where I live. Another grabbed my hands and remarked on how soft my skin is. Another one literally locked arms with me and dragged me to a coffee shop to get to know me and then later told me to come with him to a more private place for a view of the city. I weakly joke about it sometimes but in the moment it really does make me nervous. I don't know if I just look really unimposing. I'm an Asian woman but I'm taller than average. But I'm not sure why it happens. Regardless. Please don't just grab random women. Even out of friendliness. And respect personal space. While talking online and I say I don't know about meeting up and their response is you are more likely to be uphead by someone you actually know in person. Yup. Not meeting up now. Calling them beautiful as much as possible. Once or twice is nice. If you know them. Blocking my path or physically holding me in place if they are not done talking to me. Basically. Using more strength size to restrict my motion in any way. Hit on you in locations where you cannot escape. Enclosed places like elevators. Anytime someone tries really hard to convince me he's a nice guy. Every guy I've met that desperately brings it up every chance he gets isn't usually very nice. It always makes me wonder, what are they trying to hide? Like, why do I have to think you're nice? Prove it with your actions. Don't tell me repeatedly. English isn't my first language so I can't really generalize this, but asking if I need a ride and keep pestering me when I decline. I used to walk home from school when this old man literally parked his car in front of me while I was crossing a small parking lot and asked if I needed a ride. I lied and said the house at the end of the block was my house. He did it a bunch more times until I had to change my walking route. It was a longer way but I felt safe again. Jokingly using your strength to move me or keep me from moving. If I want to go home and you're pulling me back, I am not actually going along with it. Driving really aggressively and having road rage. When I was younger and dating, I had so many experiences as a passenger with young guys who were otherwise normal but really intense and scary when they got behind the wheel. It always seemed like a red flag. Wanting to go to a secluded location if I don't know you well. People on Tinder would suggest going on hikes or taking a walk after dinner on first dates. Touching you in any way without permission. Even if it seems harmless to you. Unfortunately that happens rather often in retail. Don't touch my shoulder when you talk to me. Don't stroke my hair. Don't caress my hand when you give me your money. Don't touch my ass or my boobs or anything at all. Please respect my personal space. It freaks me out when male strangers come near me and touch me in any way. It gets extra creepy when they start to compliment me and won't stop trying to befriend me. Your compliment in those situations doesn't make me happy. They scare me. I need to leave my work later and I am scared that you will wait for me outside and catch me. Joking about mugging or assaulting us. I was on the subway. returning home, and a group of tall guys were watching me play my Switch. One of them decided to swagger right up behind me so that he was breathing over my shoulder, while his friends joked about let's mug and assault her for that Switch. I'm less than 120 pounds. It wouldn't take much to force me against a wall and I couldn't escape. I could easily be mugged, beaten, arped. I was surrounded by people, thankfully, but having one of them in my personal space, while his buds laughed about assaulting me, had me terrorized the entire commute home. They got off at the same station I did, so I used a completely different exit and took a detour to shrug them off. I didn't want them knowing which direction I normally used. More annoying than scary, but telling women to smile. Thinking no isn't the final answer. Believing that with a little more convincing and I'll say yes. It makes me believe you don't respect me and worries me how far you will go after I say no. Standing too close, even without COVID. Social distancing is a thing. Asking for way too much information. Where I live, specifically, not just which city, who I live with. Oh. It must be scary living alone. Do you have any animals? Close bracket. Where I work, what hours I work. Nearly wanting a schedule of my life in order to schedule a date. And then wanting to go on secluded dates or calling up to my work to try and see if we could meet for lunch because I wasn't answering my phone. When a guy won't give up. He doesn't even have to be physically present. Being an adamant dick over text is enough to terrorize you sometimes. Liking every single picture with my face on Instagram in a period of like 2 minutes. When I was in the service industry, men flirting with me always made me really nervous. At that point, I was in a position where my whole job is to make the customer happy, and that would often be very at odds with my personal sense of this guy is creepy and I want him to go away. When you're on the clock, you have to be nice to people. You can't just tell a guy who is making you uncomfortable to off, nor can you just up and leave, especially if you're manning the register. You have to sit there and take it and play nice. And hope to God that they don't wait for you to get off shift so they can talk to harass you outside of work. When I was on dating sites, I would get a message of up yours. I would respond with something like, what was that for? I know I shouldn't respond to those. Then they would reply saying, oh sorry, don't know how that happened. How are you? If you do this to get attention of girls online, please stop. You aren't doing yourself any favors. Random touching and prodding. Had some guys in school that would just come up and poke you in the sides. Freaked me the out. I was always an extremely quiet person, and our class clown kid pulled this all the time. Once he came up behind me in gym and pinched both sides of my waist. And because I'm jumpy as I legit let out a blood-curdling horror movie scream that echoed in the gym so loudly that everyone stopped and looked. When I turned around to see what was happening, he looked like he was about to his pants. And while he continued to do it to the other girls in our class, he never came near me again. Strangers complimenting me on my body really freaks me out. I also don't like people commenting on my hair. But that's because I'm ginger and I get a lot of sexualized comments. I once got fed up and asked someone to back off when they were doing this. Tried to be polite but firm. He responded by graphically threatening to pay me and followed me for 3 blocks. Not the only time I've gotten that kind of reaction. When you say you have a beautiful figure, it's not a confidence boost. I'm not grateful. I'm thinking of the men who have this kind of reaction lurking just under the surface of that compliment, and I'm wondering if I'm in a dangerous situation. Parking right next to my car in a darkened or empty car park. I've had this conversation with several girlfriends. But when I've mentioned it to men, they had no idea about what goes through our mind when we see that. Breaking or hitting things out of anger. When I say I don't like something, like something he said or did or joked about, and he says you secretly like it. That makes my skin crawl and alarm bells start going off. Don't tell women what they like. X said he'd bust into my apartment out of concern for my safety if I didn't answer the door or his calls texts. He lived right next door. BTW. When I said that it's called breaking and entering and grounds for calling the police, he said it'd be pointless because the police were his friends and therefore wouldn't do anything. Translation? I can do anything I want and you can't stop me. So I called the police anyway and they made him stop. He began to fill my mailbox with love letters and saying if I continued to ignore him, he'd move. I did continue and he made a big production of moving out. I closed my curtains and ignored him. It's scary when a man thinks a woman is weak and can bully her and finds out differently. Customers who flirt with me while I'm working. Rare occurrence. But it's happened twice. Once a lone male co-worker was stocking shelves but within earshot, and once flirting with both me and my other, and only other, female co-worker. I've got no escape, dude. I'm stuck here until clock out and I'm bad at coming up with dumb excuses to make my male co-workers come to my aid. I had a guy come into the store I worked at and leave within 10 minutes. Not even 5 minutes after he left. He had searched me up on Instagram and messaged me, as well as all other social media. He didn't have my last name and literally sat in the parking lot to search me up and message me. And then he came into the store a lot more to learn what shifts I worked and was always there. That's not endearing or cool. It's creepy and makes me not want to go to work anymore. Meeting me at my job and asking for my work schedule so they can see me more often. I'm a lesbian. If a guy friend asks me out without knowing I only like girls, I won't care and just explain that I'm gay. If they ask me out a second time, then I don't really want to talk to them anymore. Just a huge red flag in a friendship for me. Touching me without my permission. I wish I could dick punch the people who said subtle touching is a great way to show someone that you're interested in them. But no. Don't touch me. Excessive and generalized compliments. Egg, you're so beautiful, you're so awesome, you're amazing over and over again. A few times it's fine. But when it gets excessive you realize they're putting you on a pedestal, and they're not actually complimenting you. They're complimenting this dream version of you they've made up. Evidenced by the fact the compliments are never specific to who you actually are. Also makes you wonder if they're the type to think if you insert enough compliments then you're obliged to give them something back. Night out in the pub. There will always be one guy commenting that I haven't drunk much. Oh, you're still on your first glass of wine. You drink slow. Why aren't you drinking, etc. Why are you counting my drinks? Creepy as F. Catcalling. Over the summer I was walking into a convenience store at night and had my mask on. Some guy in his car yelled out to me, "Still hot with the mask on." I just ignored him. Apparently he didn't like that. He continued to scream, "It was a wine compliment, you bitch. Relax. It's just a compliment." What? I'm not allowed to tell women they're beautiful anymore? Jesus Christ. People are so sensitive these days. Just like off, dude. Women don't want to be informed every time they make your dick hard. Choking during sex, being rough without asking. Ask. It's not okay. As a dude reading this comment section, all I have to say is WTF. Like grabbing someone and pulling them around to show your strength? Are you serious? Asking bartenders where they live and when their shift ends? Grab you from behind at night to surprise you. My ex-boyfriend, 6FT, 185 lbs, did this. He was on a trip and came back 2 days earlier and decided to surprise me. I was coming back from university at 9 PM and I felt that someone grabbed me and covered my face with their hands when I was about to enter my building. When I yelled, he let me go and he didn't understand why I insulted him and got angry. I don't cry easily, but it took me 3 hours for the tremors to go away. Common female discussion, unsolicited nudie pics. Equivalent to those creeps who hide behind the bushes trying to flash you. People need to realize 1 in 4 women have had some kind of sexual assault. Save it for your partner. Or risk getting blasted or viewed as a weirdo perv. Keep asking why when I say no. To me this says you don't care, it's a no. When they fail to understand why movies with RP and general violence directed towards women make me uncomfortable. Making RP jokes. Insisting when I've already said no. At first I just get angry. Like, come on, I said no, move on and leave me alone. Driving recklessly and laughing when you get scared. Also pushing women to have a sense of humor when they want to be cruel. Calling me sweet pet names like honey and sweetheart in a normal conversation, like at the shopping counter or anywhere else I ask a question or mention something. Most of the time they don't even realize that they start with that and I'm annoyed at it, but for some reason it freaks me out when they call me that and I don't know them. Uber or Lyft drivers who ask me if they are driving me home. You don't need to know that. Unasked for grabbing of any kind. Obviously. This especially happens to women with tattoos. Like it's appropriate to just grab a woman's arm and then act all defensive about it when we get mad, pull away. Staring. Oh my god, the staring. It's not cute. It's not attractive. I don't know you like that. To clarify, this is for the guys who think it's cute to stare when in reality it's creepy. Not guys who are literally thinking about if they turned off the stove or not while someone is accidentally in their line of sight. Not a woman, but I learned this from my ex and it's getting angry at sport on TV. If you yell extremely loud and rant a lot of girls feel scared by it. I feel like I have to make a clarification. This post was mainly meant for women to be able to highlight the small things guys do that can be perceived as creepy or scary. I'm happy to have this much engagement in the comments, but I feel like it's unnecessary to argue about the practical views on this. This isn't so much this is scary because men wants to hurt me, it's this feels scary. Please listen and understand that people think differently and what scares some don't scare everyone. If you cannot do that, then this post is not for you and I kindly ask you to leave. It doesn't scare me, but it 100% sets off alarm bells. I can't explain it. But trying to order me around as a joke. Like pretending to ask my opinion but not letting me answer. You're gonna come with me and do this thing, right? Sure you are, come on. Or you'd let me sleep over, wouldn't you? Haha, you'd love it, I know you would. Nah bro, I ain't about that. Also leaning in real close and whispering things in my ear. Personal space. Approaching me when I obviously don't want to be approached, i.e. I have headphones on. I'm on my phone. I'm reading or pretty much any other universal signal of I don't want to be disturbed. Some dude once pulled my headphones out of my ears to get my attention and scared me bad enough that I flung my coffee on him. He was not looking to talk to me after that. Not sure what he thought would happen. Making comments about my breast. Often it's hidden as a compliment, but it's just plain creepy. Raising the voice while having an argument with me. Even if the dialogue is constructive overall. Raising the voice gives me immense fear. Men are taller, heavier and stronger than I am. Being confronted with a man who is feeling anger towards me is horrific. To be fair, I was a victim of violence before, so that plays into it. Just don't scream PLS. Trying to convince me to give out certain information. My phone number ought to go with them. I don't think I have to explain this one. Raising their voice in anger. Even if it isn't directed at me. Triggers a flight response. An obvious one, I know, but I think some men have no idea how scary that is. Also grabbing or hugging me from behind as a surprise. Solid way to trigger a panic attack. When they test the waters about things. Banking on you dismissing what they do as too minor to bother rocking the boat or making a fuss about. That's a form of grooming and everyone can tell what your motivations are after the third time. You're probably thinking, oh, it isn't that serious. But while it might not be, what it winds up doing is, if you're trying to find out how far you can go in what you say or do, don't do it. Let others set that tone first. If you need an example, don't make sex race jokes until the people there at the expense of set that common ground. First. Matching my speed while driving to look in and stare at me. I'm lesbian, but whenever men hit on me and I say I'm gay, I keep getting "you're only saying that because I haven't met the right man yet," or "now you're too pretty to be gay," and lots more. Trying to sleep with me when I am very obviously not interested. When I confront them, they just say, "Can't blame a guy for trying." WTF. Can't blame a guy for trying. You very emphatically can. Was friends with a really built guy. He came to my apartment one night for us to have dinner. I didn't have money to dine out at the time. After dinner and chatting, he asked if I wanted to have sex and I declined. He then said he was going to leave as it was late. He proceeded to stand there in my lounge just checking his phone for ages, and I realized that I genuinely couldn't fight him off if I needed to. I just let him stand there on his phone, genuinely terrified to speak to him and tell him to leave in case he got angry. Turns out he was waiting for his Uber to arrive and didn't mention he was waiting. When they keep trying to win you over after you've said no. I have some gay friends who've had guys keep texting and flirting after they've said out loud "I am not straight." I was confused until I realized you meant gay women, lol. Don't touch me if I just met you. Don't try to touch my nipples on the first date. Trying to give me a hug out of nowhere. My dad and brother always try to hug me without a shirt on and I hate it. Whenever a guy tries to give me a hug that I don't want, I'll just give him a high five instead. Usually crushes their spirits a little bit and I get out of a hug. A win-win. Feel up on you and go "I'm gonna do it again." Don't pick me up. Just cause I'm tiny doesn't mean you gotta flex your strength by lifting me off my feet. It's not impressive, it's freaking scary IDK if you're gonna drop me or break something. Using a loud voice at any time. Even if they aren't angry, and also touching my head. Also, if I keep talking about being gay too much, then it's because you are slightly creepy and I'm trying to protect myself from any future advances. I'm talking specifically to a former coworker. Whining non-stop about the fact they are single and don't have sex. As a guy, I'd like to ask women if they find it creepy if someone is walking the same direction as them on the sidewalk. As a guy, I've found myself walking along a sidewalk behind a woman and it's pretty obvious on long blocks that I have no other option, and I will often pretend that I need to cross the street or tie my shoelace to open up the gap between us. I do this because I think that the person ahead of me might be freaking out. Especially if we're the only ones on the street or if it's late. I have anger issues, but I would never get angry at you. I love when the Reddit misogyny rears its head. Once got downvoted to hell for saying a guy shouldn't choke his partner during sex without first asking explicitly if it was okay. That would kill the mood. You know what else kills the mood? Making someone feel unsafe. Triggering PTSD from potential past trauma. Or generally crossing someone's boundaries by doing something without their consent. After reading these comments, I will never ask another gal out in a place where there isn't a clear way for them to exit. Not that I'm engaging in that behavior. But I never realized how much I take for granted my feeling of personal safety at almost all times. Sheesh, ladies. How do y'all do it? And by it I mean exist. Walk close behind me. Like, even if there's a lot of people around, there's no guarantee a man might not just decide to inappropriately touch me. Or yell something sexist. Playfully trying to wrestle with me or restrain my movements. Unless we've agreed to this beforehand. Don't do this. Ever. To any woman who's ever been up head.